So there was pretty much no danger of this ever seeing the table in its cellophane to do like a mere unboxing video with. This was ripped open within minutes of its arrival. Fortunately, the contents devoured, much like a great old one might devour your sanity, and onto the table with players almost as quickly. There was guys queued up to get playing this one. Been waiting for it for some time. Okay, it's not a new game, but it's new to us, you know. Classic Pandemic. It's a grand game, don't get me wrong. It's not a game that I would race to play. It wouldn't be like, oh, what we play tonight? What we play tonight? Oh, I know. Let's play Pandemic. For me, it's one of those games where somebody else kind of goes, oh, I've brought Pandemic with me. Can we play that tonight? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll jump in. Cthulhu Pandemic is very much its own creature. It's not like just a skin that's stuck over the standard Pandemic rules and, you know, new pictures, and you're buying the same old thing over again. Totally stands on its own. It's got its own mechanics. Yes, there's elements where if you're a Pandemic player, you're going to go, ah, yeah, okay, I'm familiar with the flow of this. Pardon me. And then there's other bits where you're going to be like, oh, this is new. I like that. Or hate that. Whatever. You know, it all works. Back of the box, you know, oh, it's very pretty, it's shiny, there's the minis and all the rest of it. 2 to 4 players, they say about 40 minutes, but let's be honest, when did we ever open a game and play it in the recommended time, eh? But, okay, we'll show you what's inside. So, flip open the box. First thing you met with is, of course, the face of the great old one himself, Cthulhu. No need to roll your sand, though. He is here, in this instance, to guide you through the rules. Bit of a blurb, bit of a background sort of feeler on what sort of the setting of the game is, so to speak. Then you've got your one way to win and your multiple ways to lose. Cthulhu Awakens, game over. Not enough cultists left to put on the board when you need them, game over. Not enough sugars to put on the board when you need them, game over. And not enough player cards left to draw when you need them, game over. All players insane, game over. One way to win, close all the 4 gates. So, not exactly a walk in the park, but very much in the spirit of Cthulhu, I think you'll find. Certainly the board games and role-playing games. Next, you've got an overall spread on setting up your game, the components and what goes onto the table as and when you need them. Flows fairly well, shows you what you need to see. Makes sense, like it. The next thing, you're taken through sort of the sequence of play, doing your actions, special actions, how to seal a gate, drawing your cards, the evil stirs cards. All of these will cover in due course. And most of it, to be fair, fairly self-explanatory. It does its job as a rule book. There's a little bit of FAQ out there. A few people find some of the stuff a bit ambiguous. But yeah, by and large, we found our way through it quite comfortably. Got 1 or 2 things wrong. That was more down to just our understanding rather than it necessarily not being written clearly. Example, play sequence takes you through somebody's first turn. Certainly helps you get a grip for things there. Yeah, run through on... No, sorry, the summoning cards. Investigator, sanity rolls, the end sequence. Then it's the play example with the full player turn. You know, it helps you, but it's no substitute for actually having a go at it. Run through the old ones, the fine points in them, what they can do, relics, some of the sort of special permutations from them, and a little bit on the commonly overlooked rules. Just simple wee reminders, simple things that you could kind of go, oh, forgot about that. Yeah, we need to do that. So yeah, it's reasonably comprehensive. I don't think it sort of left us with any big glaring questions. And the last wee bit is just an overview of the characters. Both their sane status, their insane status, their special abilities. Some are good team players, some are kind of abilities that help them better as individuals. You'd love to have them all on the table at one go. Sadly, you can't. you're only going to have a choice of 4 of them to work with. But yeah, there you go, the rule book. So the board, not a huge board, very pretty board. If I can actually get the thing out here, you will soon see it. So what are you looking at? We're looking at the 4 regions, which are 4 towns, all color coded. Each one's got its sort of precincts or little locations within it. They've all got pretty names, like the park and the pawn shop and the theatre and whatnot. You have Arkham, Dunwich, Innsmouth and Kingsport. You have the gates that have to be shut within each one. We have got an area for player card and player discard. Also for the summoning cards, and then the summoning card discard. And then across the top you have the area where the old one cards for the Evil Stirs and Awakenings will be laid out. And you have the numbers that refer to how many summoning cards will get turned over in a given phase as well, depending on which great old ones. It starts off at 2s, and then by about halfway it jumps up to 3 until finally Cthulhu, and it's like game over. There's a lot kind of going on, which makes more sense obviously once we start putting the people down onto it. Your 4 gates there that have to be closed, and it's just it's nice. It's kind of shiny and it's kind of pretty, and yeah, I like it. Right, on with the rest of the show. Okay then, so looking inside the box, one of the first things that I've got to say I love is the fact you get the sorting tray in there, which holds everything fairly well together. Big compartment for the cultists to live in, smaller one for the sanity tokens and gate tokens. Got your dice compartment, your shoggoths and your characters all in their wee homes. And then you've got like a gradated compartment for the different types of cards that come together. Now what there is, let's say you've got your old ones that you'll use 6 of them, 7 of them in the turn. You've got your key cards for your moves, what you can do in your turn. You've got your summoning deck where the cultists will appear. You've got a player deck or clue deck as it's called. Into that you've got relics. Some relic cards will go into that for play, and then a draw pile of relics. A couple of different ways to get those sort of in the game as well. And then you've got your Evil Stirs cards, which are, when you draw those, everything kind of escalates. You'll roll sand and horrible things happen. And your character cards there as well. Two-sided. We'll take a look at all of these in a bit more detail shortly. So looking then at the Great Old One cards, there's quite a selection of them. You will deal out 6 of these onto the playboard, that top section that we showed you earlier on. The 7th Cthulhu will always be there, so he'll go down the last position. If he comes up in gameplay, that's it, it's game over. Sorry guys, good effort. Each of them has a number of different effects that each one has an effect that they do, but there's a couple of different effects overall. Some will be one-off kind of instant things, bang, it happens, lose sanity points collectively, lose cards collectively. Some will deny you actions, for instance restricting your movement or forcing you to fight cultists. And then there are some of the cards that have a lingering effect that will sort of stay in game and certainly impede you. And your progress there marked with like the little infinity symbol. Now there are 1 or 2 relics which are particularly useful at hindering or stopping or negating the effects of some of the old ones. But the bottom line is that, you know, we could really want as few of these blighters turning over. The fact that you've got the selection of them is nice because you're randomly dealing out your 6 that are going to come up in the course of your game, and of course then that leaves others off to the side that you're not using. So there's a lot of scope for revisiting the game, because the pattern and which ones will come out each time is different, and the artwork on them lovely as well. Now then, the relic cards. So depending on the number of players in the game, you will deal out 2, 3 or 4 of the relic cards, and they'll be shuffled into the player deck, the clue deck, to be drawn out at the end of each player's turn when they draw up 2 cards. There's also then a relic draw deck, because if you defeat Shuggoth, you get to draw a relic, an opportunity to draw a relic for that. And the magician has a relic card given to him at the start of the game, along with his hand, to use as well. The relics are quite good. They're not game winners. They're more like little things that kind of opportunities to save your bacon 2 or 3 times if you're fortunate enough to get them. There's a couple that can directly hinder the great old ones, but there's nothing that's going to sort of bend the rules so far that you think you're God's gift, so to speak. Now then, the summoning deck. So these are the cards that you'll draw after your own draw phase to populate more cultists onto the map. Colour coded for each of the towns, but this time each one has a name of a specific place within the town, so that you're sort of filling up the areas. And then if you get to the 3, of the risk obviously of causing another awakening by the need to place a 4th one onto it. And they've got the symbols, those 3 symbols on those cards indicate that you're instructed to move a Shuggoth, and the Shuggoths will move towards the gate in the areas that they're in as well. The 4 Evil Stirs cards. These are the cards that primarily escalate the threat and build the tension within the game. These will be shuffled into your player draw deck, so that obviously occasionally through the game you'll end up drawing one of these, and when that then occurs, you follow the instructions written on the card. Each one's the exact same. You've got to roll for your sand, you'll do an awakening where you'll turn over the great old one and apply the effect of whatever they're throwing into the game at that time, because each one obviously, as we've shown you, is different. Instructs you then to draw a Shuggoth by drawing the bottom card from the summoning deck, place him onto the map as if you didn't have enough trouble, and then reshuffle all the discarded summoning cards back onto the top of the pile, and nightmares begin. These are the 4 cards that form the basis of the player draw deck, the clue deck, and you're working to gather up 5 of each of these in order to seal the 4 gates in the various locations around the towns. That's the deck then, as we've shown you, that you'll fill with a certain number of the relic cards, and of course the 4 Evil Stirs cards will go in here as well. And whatever number of these you put into the deck helps determine the difficulty level of the game that you've set for yourself. Right then, these player cards, you'll be wanting to know stuff about those, I suppose. What can I tell you? You've got 7 characters, obviously. I don't know why I paused there. I think I actually had to count them in my head. Got your 7 characters. You'll get 4 sand tokens for each one, and other than that, each one has a little special ability, a cute, cool thing that they can do. The detective only uses like 4 cards to close a gate instead of 5. The doctor can do 5 actions instead of 4. The driver can choose to walk 2 locations instead of 1. The hunter can defeat, when it does defeat a cultist action, can defeat all the cultists in the space, or it can defeat a Shuggoth for 1 action instead of 3. The Magician has a hand limit of 8 and starts by getting a relic card straight off. The Occultist for 1 action can move 1 cultist up to 2 locations. For 2 action, move 1 Shuggoth up to 1 location. And the Reporter, if she decides to take a bus, can discard any clue card to go to any location on the board at all. And as another action, can move from any bus station to any other bus station without the use of a card. So yeah, you know, all quite useful, all quite good. If you could throw them all on the table in one go, you would be laughing and the game would be no challenge at all. But you can only get 4 of them. The way they sort of suggest it is to deal out 2 to each player, and, you know, let them pick and then deal 2 again, pick, deal 2 again, blah blah blah. They're insane sides then, so you flip them over as and when you lose all your sand tokens. That's me being optimistic, as and when, because you will. If you ever are all insane though, obviously that's game over. Now, when you're insane, you still make sanity rolls because you could end up putting cultists on the table, but you can't lose any more sand. If you manage to close a gate when you're insane, you get to go to the hospital or the church, flip back over to your sane side, you get some sanity back. And essentially, everyone's kind of got the same special skill, but it's a little bit diluted, or it's not just as good. The Doctor goes down to only having 4 actions. The Magician goes down to only having 7 cards. The Reporter can no longer do the take the bus action, and once per turn as a free action can take 1 clue card from the town that they're in from the player discard pile. The Hunter, each turn they go into a location without any cultists, have to make a roll, and if they get a sanity loss, they have to put a cultist on instead of losing more sand because they're insane. You can still do the whole remove all cultists action, but you lose the ability to defeat Shuggoths that way. The Driver has to move 2 locations instead of 1, doesn't get to choose it. And the Detective is up to 5 matching cards to close a gate instead of 4. So, you know, bit diluted. So then, we're going to set up the board for preparation to play. So, Cthulhu is your first card. He's always going to be in that last end space. You stick him down, take the rest of your Great Old One cards, give them the old shuffly ruffly, and then you deal them out into the spaces at the top of the board. Dun, dun, dun. And you can throw the others away because you're not going to use them for the rest of the game. Next off, we're going to grab our player cards. We're going to pretend that we're playing a 4-player game. You know, daily. You deal 2 down onto the table and let somebody pick one. Whenever they've picked one, then you deal out another one to replace the one that's gone. Let the next player pick one, and then take another one, deal out another one to that. Let them pick one from that again. That way you dole out your characters to everybody. So get your character card, get your sand tokens, and get your little cue card to remind you of your actions that you're allowed to do in the turn as well. Just a wee prompt. Give everybody their playing piece as well, though those will be getting put onto the board in a starting position later. Now, the decks for the player draw pile and for the summoning. Now, you know, there's a pile of these there. Hand somebody the flipping player draw deck, the clue cards, like these. Set them over to them and go shuffle those like Bellio while I do the rest of the setup here. The next thing to do is to gather up the summoning cards. That's the named locations of every place within each town with the pictures of the cultists on the back of them. Gather those up. Give them a dang good shuffle as well. Because again, you don't want gluts of one particular area coming out from that. It's bad enough at the best of times. So you're going to give them a shuffle, and then we're going to populate the board with the initial sort of startup cultists, the covens that are already in position that has sort of drawn the area to our attention and brought our investigators. So first off, you'll draw 2 locations. There we go. And these go into the discard pile. Once you'll draw these cards, these will still go into the discard pile on the board, but the first 2 cards generate 3 cultists in each of the locations. And just take them from the supply and stick them down, and hope to goodness they don't all end up in the same place. Then we will take 2 more, and we'll get another purple and a red this time, but this time it's 2 cultists to both those locations. Again, into the discard pile. Yeah, there we are. Hiding. Don't keep your cards on the board, by the way. Get them in your own area. And lastly, well, not lastly, sorry, 2 more cards, 2 more locations. This time they'll only get 1 cultist each. There we go. And now lastly, you take 1 from the bottom of the deck, and that location is getting a Shuggoth. Ta-da! Hooray! Tidy them up, and the rest of your deck gets set down, and that becomes your draw pile then. So, your player deck, the clue deck, you will have given that a good shuffle, and then of course you'll take 4 relic cards. And again, this is because we're basing this on a 4-player game. In an ideal world, you will shuffle those into the deck. On this occasion, I will just, stick them in, sort of spread out evenly, but you get the idea, okay? Then break that deck down into roughly 4 even-ish piles, as even as you can manage them, okay? And then you're going to take your 4 Evil Stirs cards, and those are going to be shuffled 1 into each of those sub-piles, and then stacked back up together again to form 1 pile. So we'll do that now. So that's us, we're ready to crack on. We've put all our 4-player characters for this example onto the board. Everything else is in position and ready to go. So the reporter is, pardon me, who had chosen. Every player will get dealt an initial hand of 2 cards from the clue deck. They are normally played face up so that everyone can see it. You're working together after all. You're not trying to thwart each other. So the cards being revealed makes sense. And from then on, it's up to the player what you want to do. You've got your little reference card to remind you of your actions and your choices. So, like, what have we got there? We had our walk. We had take a bus, use a gate, give or take a clue card or relic card, defeat a cultist, defeat a Shuggoth, or sail a gate. And of course you've got your special ability as well. Now we've got a Shuggoth on the board already. That's a bit of a pain in the bottom. Oh yeah, the dice. We hadn't really covered this, have we? Blank side, you're fine and dandy. Then you've got the loss of 1 SAN, the loss of 2 can crop up, and you have the final one, which is a picture of 2 cultists. That's your paranoid, and if you roll that, you have to position 2 cultists on your location, and you'll be rolling that fairly often. So yeah, the reporter. Number of things we can do. We can move a space. We can use all our actions moving if we want to. But remember, she's got this special ability about spending clue cards or not to ride the bus, and she is in the bus station already, right at the train station. So the easiest thing to do at the minute, I think, for herself, is probably to get that Shuggoth off the board. So we're going to spend the card, because that's the town that we're currently in. So for 1 action, she gets to jump over straight into the space that the Shuggoth's on, because she can go to any location on the board. We've arrived in a space with the Shuggoth, so roll the dice, and yay, we go a bit wee and lose 1 point of SAN. 1 action spent, 3 actions left, bing, Shuggoth is dead. Simple as that. Now, we've defeated a Shoggoth, so we get a relic. Not bad, word of box, not relevant as yet. Hopefully we'll get an opportunity to use that later in the game, sort of thing. And you took that away. Then it's the draw phase. So draw 2 clue cards, add them to your stack. Remember that your hand size is 7. After we've done that, the next thing to do then is the summoning phase, where we draw a couple of cultist cards. So, and that's related obviously to the summoning rate underneath the Great Old One cards. So flip them over, and 2 cards. Yep, sorry, 2 cards. I've already said. So first one, grab a cultist and stick them in position. Cha-ching. There we are. And the next one, and cha-ching. And of course, if you ever end up in a position where you already have 3 cultists in a location, you have to add another one. You can't, because you can only have 3. It doesn't spread out like in Pandemic. Instead, it causes a summoning, and an old one wakens up early. So, going to pretend that we're using the magician next. Give him his 2 cards. He also gets a relic straight off into his hand. Now, again, you know, we could move 1 space, 2 spaces, 3 spaces, 4 spaces, whatever. Looking at the board, we've got a couple of areas there with 3 cultists, and it's still early. So, ideal opportunity. Get rid of the card. Clunk. Now, unlike the reporter is able to spend any card to do it. He has to spend one that matches the town he's in. Over he goes. Again, gets to go to any location. 1 action to do the bus ride, and spend his remaining actions cleaning out all those cultists, and they go back in the box. And remember, if you ever can't draw cultists from the box to put onto the board, it's another game over. So, draw our 2 cards, and ta-da! Evil stirs. I didn't actually plan that, but it works well, because it's sort of the next big thing to exemplify. So, first thing off is face the terror, roll the sand dice, don't lose any sand. Lucky enough. An awakening, reveal the first Great Old One. Oh, pleasant. We could have done without him this early in the game, unfortunately. Yeah, his permanent effect is that playing relic cards can only be done by the active player, which is a bit of a handicap early on in a game. I've got to say, Yog-Sothoth, you pain. Once we have done that, we have to place a Shoggoth on the board. So this time you're drawing a card from the bottom of the summoning deck. Find the location, grab the Shoggoth, and plunk him down. Now, on this occasion, if that card, for example, had a movement for the Shoggoth, it wouldn't apply. It's only when you draw from the deck and deal it out from the top down. If the symbol's on there for moving a Shoggoth, you do it. And remember that all those cards then later on, well, now actually, will get shuffled up and go back on the top of the pile, meaning that you, as the play continues, the areas that have already been infected or infested with cultists will crop up more often. And frankly, that's it in essence. You know, play continues on. You'll each take your turn and do your best, gathering the clue cards, sharing them as you meet in different locations to try and get round and close those gates. The value for me, I suppose, boils down to the fact that it is Cthulhu. It's got a fairly easy pickup. The random nature of the Great Old Ones across the top there that come out mean that the sort of the difficulty that you're under changes every time. There's a different, or even if you dealt the same guys out, you know, you've got a different order to it. The cards that you're drawing come up in a different pattern. The locations that cultists are multiplying comes up in a different pattern. You know, there's lots of permutations. Yes, it's very easy to lose. And Pandemic is very easy to lose. So it's true to the struggle of getting Pandemic right. But it does it, you know, having played Mansions of Madness, more so having played likes of Arkham Horror and games like that, it does a decent job of carrying over the Cthulhu flavour. It does a decent job of feeling under pressure to do it as well. You know, the investigation and Cthulhu, the role-playing games with investigation comes in, you know, that's kind of metaphorical, going around and getting your clue cards kind of represents you, you know, investigating and finding out the information, and that information being enough to lead you to be able to close the gate in a particular location, be it learning rituals or whatever. The relics aren't overpowering, but they are nice to get, and everyone does kind of, ooh, I got a relic this time. Class, what does it do? Well, you know, and yes, nearly all of them do serve a good purpose. Some of them not so great a purpose. The relics themselves will not win you the game, but they certainly don't do any harm in that regard. Ordinary movement, obviously we've done fancy stuff there. We didn't really do our ordinary movement. So yeah, we'll talk about that, should we? Very briefly, and because I think I've kept you listening long enough. Walking is just moving to one adjacent location, so one square to another. That's an action, and you can use all your actions doing that. You've got obviously the taking a bus, where you can discard the clue card to do it. You can jump using a gate to another gate location, but that's a sand roll. And your other actions, obviously, give and take a clue or relic card if you're sharing the same location. Going into a space, you can spend an action to simply defeat a cultist. You can defeat multiple cultists, you can take all three. You can spend 3 actions to defeat a Shuggoth. Again, it's a sand roll when you go in there. And sealing the gate, you discard your 5 cards matching the gate. And the reward for doing that is you take 1 cultist from every location in that town. And I think that's pretty much it. If you do go insane, the best thing to do if you're insane is close a gate, because if you do that, you get to flip your card over and regain your full sanity for sealing it, and you're transported automatically, the choice of either the hospital or the church location, to kind of symbolise the reward of getting that sanity back, and on you go. So, you know, that's something that you can bear in mind too, that if you've got an insane guy in the team, maybe the best thing to do is for people to spend their actions giving them the cards to let them get to a location and close it. So yeah, you know, it's simple enough, decent enough learning curve. We really enjoy it, and that's all I can say for it. It's a nice game, it's good fun, and if you enjoy Pandemic, you're probably going to enjoy it for the difference in the mechanics. If you enjoy Cthulhu, you're probably going to enjoy it for just a different way of enjoying the genre. And that's all we can say, folks. Hope that helps you. Thanks for watching. Bye.